This is the Atari 2600. It had one of the longest lifespans of any home console, lasting from 1977 to 1992. And during this time in video game history, a boatload of different and unique games were released for the 2600. Some are still seen today as classics, and others are best off stored away in a shelf collecting dust. Now, an interesting thing about the Atari is how many unit variations there are. So, you got this classic 6-switch one with the wood grain finish, and then you have units like this. This one has a black front. I think that's pretty unique. So I'm going to be reviewing my top 10 Atari 2600 games. This will just be a list for up-and-coming collectors or anybody really interested in the Atari 2600. Alright, let's go to the list. Alright, starting off our list, we got Pac-Man. Now this game is placed low on the list for a reason. It's notoriously downgraded from the arcade classic, but I honestly think the developers did an okay job porting the game to only 4 kilobytes. Of course, I can't mention Pac-Man without talking about a much better Miss Pac-Man, released a year after in 1981. It's a vastly improved version, and if you're looking for an authentic arcade experience, go with this one. But I still believe that the original has a very charming appeal that I can't quite put into words. Just see for yourself. Coming in at the number 9 spot, we got Space Invaders. This is probably one of the most recognizable video games of all time. Space Invaders makes a great game for a starting collector. It has tons of game modes to choose from, and it definitely makes for a fun time. The base game is one of the most engaging games you'll find on the 2600, and you'll find yourself tensing up as the last few aliens come speeding down the screen. Number 8, we got Frogger. Frogger has some of the most snappy controls on the system, and because of the obstacle avoiding gameplay, it makes for one of the most addicting games on the system in my opinion. However, there isn't much variety in the gameplay. At number 7, we got Donkey Kong. Yeah, Nintendo made a game for Atari before the NES came out, so that's pretty interesting. But yeah, like Pac-Man, this is another arcade port that's noticeably downgraded. It's missing levels from the original arcade game, but it still has an addicting trial and error gameplay, and it feels so good to complete a level. Alright, at number 6, we got kind of a strange one. Gremlins. Movie tie-in games aren't usually the best, especially for older systems, but Gremlins is truly an exception. This is a great game to listen to your favorite music and focus on. This game will take all of your attention to anything going on in the outside world and direct it to the screen. And if you get distracted by anything, you're deemed to fail. Number 5, we got Adventure. For being one of the first open-world games of all time, Adventure is a pretty well-designed one. You're a square, and your one goal is to bring a glowing chalice back to your home castle. It might not sound like it, but this is one of the most challenging games on the system, especially at later difficulties. Coming in at number 4, we got River Raid by Activision. You'll be swooping around corners and blasting through ships in a never-ending quest to go up a river. Well, that's besides the point. This is a great game that I would definitely recommend for new collectors on the Atari. Alright, nearing the top of the list, we got Kaboom by Activision. This is one of the only games on this list that requires the Atari 2600 paddle controllers. But this is another game that you'll have to dedicate all of your attention to. You'll have to devote all of your being to stopping a criminal from dropping bombs on the ground. And that death sound. It feels like your whole world has come to a stop, and you realize that you haven't blinked in 5 minutes. Alright, at the number 2 spot, we got Berserk. Talk about atmosphere. It's an eerie feeling when you're wandering the halls of an undisclosed building with no set goal. No sounds beside the cracks and pops of blasters, and the only thing moving are lumbering mechanical monsters with one life goal: eliminate all intruders. Okay, I might have exaggerated a bit, but Berserk is still a great pick for new collectors. And finally, the number 1 pick. Might have gotten spoiled by the thumbnail, but this is Yar's Revenge. This is pure original fun. This is by far my favorite game for the Atari 2600. It really feels like you brought down an alien ship when you beat a level. The gameplay in Yars' Revenge is very unique. You're a little fly whose mission is to stop the evil alien invaders who come in one at a time in different ships. Down the middle of the screen is a safe zone that you could hide in to avoid the drone that follows you all over the screen. And once you finally break through the alien ship, you have to line up the cannon strike to hit just right, and then BOOM! So those are by far my top 10 classics that you must try if you're going to collect for the Atari 2600. Thank you guys so much for watching.